Today, we're talking about vMix HD. And definitely, there are two big contenders in the software live switching solution package, OBS and vMix. They're very comparable. Disclosure, I own the software that I'm going to be talking about. I own both an HD license and a Pro license because sometimes I just need HD and I don't need to bring my Pro big kit. They are not paying me to say this. This is not a paid ad. I am not compensated in any way by vMix or any of the tools that I talk about today, because I'll be talking about several. So this is just unpaid, firsthand use and knowledge that I'm passing along. So different tools for different people. Different people learn differently. Different people work differently. Pick the tool that works for you. vMix HD might not be the right tool for you. It might be, Boink's Mimo Live might be the right tool for you or something like that. So try them out. Find what works the way you think and is fluid for you. So today, I'm going to be talking about vMix HD. And HD is the very basic package available from vMix. So the vMix website, it is very comprehensive. One of the very nice things is they do tutorials on everything, and they, being the people who author vMix, do tutorials on everything. Over here, when you go to purchase, you'll see a comparison table. And down here, you'll see here's basic HD. And the basic HD, I should move this laptop over here so it's on my right hand. The basic HD is $60 US, and that's a one-time fee. You pay it, you're done. $60 done. You could use it for 5 years. You could use it for 6 years, and it's $10 a year. Pennies a month. And that's one of the nice things is it's a purchase. Now, that purchase gives you any updates they make in a year since you buy it. And then after that, if you want to get, let's just say 27 comes out or 28 comes out, it says, oh my God, now the new version has a direct integration with Zoom. I need that feature. You can pay $50 and then you're going to get all the updates for another year. Total inputs on this very basic version is 4. If you go up to the $350 one, you get 1,000. At this point, you would say, why would I ever need 1,000 inputs? And that's just because of the way that vMix works, is that any element in your project is an input. A still image is an input. A title is an input. Those are all inputs. That's just what it calls it. So the very basic version, so that you can see how it works, get into it. Does this work for you? Does it solve your problem? It's very, very basic, limited to just 4 inputs. But sometimes if you need a camera, a PowerPoint, a multi-view, and that's all you want to do is switch between those 3 things, this is literally all you need. I actually use vMix HD on this Microsoft Surface Go tablet. If you've ever seen any of my shows that are about Instagram is vertical, but there's no vertical HD ISO specs, so it comes out horizontal. And then I would feed it into this laptop running HD. I would take that source, rotate it, stick it off to the side, put a background behind, and then output it into this show that I'm doing here as another input. So I'm running vMix HD to do that simple task on a lightweight Windows Surface tablet. Again, this is the Go, 8 megabytes of RAM. Now, I'm not doing today's demo on the Go because I plan on having 4 inputs. I plan on trying NDI and much harder things than 8 megabytes on a Surface when you consider that Windows is using some of it, is not enough RAM. So don't think that you're going to run a big show on the Go. You may be able to do it on the Pro with 16 megabytes of RAM. But I just want to indicate that it will run on lightweight hardware because you're not asking a lot of the Surface with those minimal type inputs. We have 1 overlay channel. In the other versions, you can have 4 overlay channels. It only does HD. It does recording. It does streaming. including 3 simultaneous live streams. Now that is something I was actually surprised to find, is that even the HD version will let you send 3 streams. Full screen output is good, external output. So if you have hardware to output your program, you can actually send your program out hardware for iMag and things like that. You have the GT, which is their titles. The standard is included. The advanced is not. You have a playlist function, which is great for music. You can put like a bunch of things in a row or a bunch of videos in a row and then just tick, 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 or randomize and things like that. You have professional color correction built into the input. So if you get 2 cameras that don't quite match, somebody says, oh, I want to use a PTZ in my GoPro. Okay. You know, and the black levels don't match. The GoPro is a little, you know, like the blacks are a little gray. You can drag them down so they both have nice contrast. Video list, nope. vMix call, nope. Multi-quarter is a great function so that if you have all these inputs coming in, 4 cameras, and you want to basically ISO record them, there's actually a multi-quarter function. You click one button and it just takes whatever comes in and just records it straight. It doesn't really mess with it. 4 external outputs, you can see those are on the higher levels. Scripting, PTZ control, SRT outputs. You actually get SRT with the basic HD. I'm not going to delve into that. Vertical HD, nope. And zoom integration, nope. So you see they've added that zoom integration right down there at the bottom of the list. So yes, you do not get the zoom integration with the HD version. But in addition to that, they also have over here this Max license. So if you're doing a job and all of a sudden, you know vMix, you're comfortable with vMix, and then you have this job where it's like, oh my goodness, I need 6 cameras and 50 titles and video playbacks and pre-show and post-show and breaks and, you know, all this stuff. You can actually upgrade for that month for $50. That is what over here, $50 per month. You can upgrade to what they call Max, which is the Pro. So you get everything, you know, as big a machine as you put this on, it will utilize everything that machine has. When you're looking for a machine, you need to consider what your workload is going to be. Am I going to be ingesting a bunch of Mevo Start cameras or Tail Air over NDI? Then you don't need the ports so much. You're going to need a good Ethernet port, but you're not going to need all the USB and other stuff. You'll probably not need Thunderbolt. If you're going to be doing PTZ cameras and stuff like that, you know, over NDI, again, it's all going to be coming in over the network. I find a dedicated Ethernet port for me is one of the must-haves. I really like having an SD card because I always need to ingest media or output media very quickly. And then for me, the Thunderbolt port is very important because I have leveraged, this is also mine. This is the Aja IO 4K. It gives me 4 SDI inputs. It also has an SDI output. It also has timecode and reference input, so I can gen lock it if I'm working in someone else's studio. It has HDMI in and HDMI out. That is an example of one of the type of things you can do. Other people will take the Thunderbolt and go to an external PCI enclosure, and then you can have an 8-channel card in there. If you go with a desktop unit, then you can just put the cards inside, and you know, all this built-inness is even increased further. Because as you can see, this is not in my laptop. I have to bring that extra. So this is the output of the laptop, and I'm just going to click on the vMix icon on the bottom here. 24. So you can see this one's a couple versions behind, but like I said, it does what I need it to do, and I haven't seen the need to upgrade it because I'm not doing everything that could be done with it. The thing that's a little daunting when vMix opens is it's like opening a word processor document. There's nothing here. Where are my inputs? Where are my cameras? What do I do? And same with OBS. When you first open OBS, it's a blank slate. You know, it's very different than opening a TriCaster. I should do a show on the TriCaster, which I also own. This can be very daunting, and it was daunting to me when I first opened it. I was like, I have no idea what to do. So you start watching the tutorials and you start getting a little bit familiar with the interface. These are your inputs down here on the left. This is where you set them to be something. Here's your record button, your outputs button, your stream. Here's the multi-quarter I mentioned, and there's your playlist function. Over here's your audio mixer area. These are all just part of the Windows interface, and you can, change that a little bit. On the left is your preview. Over here is your program. They have colors. You can pick the colors and everything. If you don't like the size of those windows, you can actually drag this, or if you have more inputs, you can drag this higher, make them smaller, make more room for your inputs. But again, we are working with the HD version today, so 4 inputs. That's all we get. And that means there are 4 windows here. That's it. So let us add an input. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click Add Input. It comes up with a window. You can add a video, a DVD, there's a relic, a list, a camera, an NDI or desktop capture. You know what? Let's go grab NDI. It's going to find what's available. And I have a PTZ optics camera, and then I also have the output of the Omen is on. There's my bird dog. Let's see if I can grab the bird dog. Okay. There's the bird dog camera. That camera is coming across via NDI. So it's not coming in right here. If I go to my camera input, I can click on this and it'll show me I have my HP Wide Vision HD camera, which is the little built-in, NewTek NDI video, USB capture SDI plus, and USB video. That's because I have 2 different capture things going on right now. I have this little video capture, HDMI, very simple. I've did a video on these, are available now for $10 each, which is insane. But other people have said they're not as good quality as they were a couple years ago. And then back here, I have a Magewell SDI capture card, also coming over USB. So let's try the USB video. We'll click on OK. It's playing back. I've got my camera and I've got that going on. And just for the sake of curiosity, I've got the task manager here. The NVIDIA is being used at 3% and my CPU is being used at 20%. So we'll hide that again. So I got those 2 inputs, but I need a background for this video that's being played. So I am going to add an input. I'm going to add an image from here. Okay. Okay. Now I've got a background. One of the nice things I have found with vMix is that I can take this background and start layering things. When you do a multi-view, you've got 10 layers. So I can take this, the position of this main thing, I'm going to zoom it in a little bit because it's, there we go. And then I'm going to layer on top of this the number 2. I'm going to add input number 2. So there he is. I'm going to edit his size. I'm actually going to size him down. Not 3, layer 2. So there he is, but you don't green screen him here in number 3. You go over to number 2 and you say color key, use the eyedropper, grab that color. Let's do number 2. There you go. That's obviously heavily compressed stock. You can see the stock logo in there. And I'm not using this for commercial purposes, so I'm just going to let it be. But you can see now I've got him over the background. So you can easily do something like that. And then if you wanted to scoot him to the side, you could actually change the position of 2 and move him left or right, anywhere you want. There's a little bit of black bar at the bottom, so we can scoot this down. I don't have a mouse attached, but one of the really nice things I like about this is if you put your cursor over that item and use the mouse wheel, you can gently scroll that item left. You can adjust those parameters very delicately, like cropping the top. There's a black bar at the top, so I can crop the top Come on. Which is a little harder to do on my trackpad than it would be if I had a mouse. So there you go, ready? And cut, and now that's my output. As I add inputs that have sound, the audio would appear over here to the right. Then we want to add a title. So we're going to come over here to add inputs. Continuing down the list, you can bring in a stream or an SDI. You can do an instant replay, which I'm not going to get into because I don't do sports, so I can't speak on instant replay. A video delay, so you can actually push things back. An image, which I just did. A list of photos. So if you have a bunch of photos you want to use in like a carousel, you can do that. PowerPoints can be imported directly. You don't have to have a laptop playing PowerPoint in order to have the PowerPoint and be able to like thumb through the pictures. The thing I have not seen is that it doesn't do builds. So if you have PowerPoint with a bunch of spinning lines and each line does a little effect as it comes in, I don't think the PowerPoint in vMix does that. But if someone sees it differently in the later versions, feel free to correct me in the comments. You can add a color background. This is sort of like the default if you want to have just a base layer to start building stuff on top of. I usually start with a color background. And the color background can actually be transparent. So right there it says it can be transparent. So you can just do a bunch of clear things and then use that as an overlay for something else. You can bring in just audio, like an audio. This is audio clips, like an MP3 or WAV, or an audio input, which would be like this can bring in a bunch of audio as well. So you can bring in just audio, or if you have a USB audio interface, this will work with that. So you could have something that does 8 channels of audio individually and then bring that audio interface in and you'll have all those audio interfaces. A title, so you got a built-in titler. So let's just see, pick something. That one looks nice. There we go. Headline. And then has description text. Chief Gearhead. And then of course you can change the color, the size, the timing. You can connect these to data sources. So if you have an XML spreadsheet, you can then just, you know, be able to like tick, 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 go through, which is great for graduations and things like that. You can add, it has a built-in clocks and other things down there. So we'll put this down here. And now you see my titles down here as input 4. And if I go over here and say, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to add something, another camera from that SDI source. There you go. And we say, okay, nope. The input limit has been reached. So I'm just demonstrating to you that this is indeed HD. You have 4 inputs. Very, very basic. But many times 4 can kind of get you to where you need to go. So we close this. 4 means not 5. But here you go. I've got 1 channel of overlay. So I'm going to hit that. It's going to fade in. You see how it actually is animated. And it moves out. Brings in and goes out. You can, up here, you can do a cut, a fade to black. One of the cool features that this does have is it has a merge. So if I had something where I had, let's do this. He's going to talk about me on, let's put me back a little bit. I'm going to put that right there. And I'm going to shrink that down. So he's going to be talking about this input. I'm going to move it over here. See, he's talking about that. And then I'm going to put a border on it. There you go. So now he's talking about, yeah, see this over here? But I want to go from that multi-view to just me. If I click merge, it does that cool TV effect, you know, to go between them. It's not just cutting, it's not just fading, it's actually moving, it's dynamic. You see that a lot in multi-box displays on TV today. So if one person's talking, they want to bring in someone over that'll move and then it'll move back and recover. That is built into this. So you can, hey, look at that. I'm talking about my PowerPoint. And then you go to the PowerPoint full screen. What he was talking about, his audio still goes on. And then you come back here and there he's still talking. That is built in here. And then even while you're doing that, I've got my background, my camera, my overlay. I got all three of those layers, and then I can bring in my fourth layer. So it can be an event. And like I said, those are your 4 inputs. But those 4 inputs can be anything, and they can be layered over top of each other. But you just can't add more than 4. You know, even if I just wanted to add, I just want another title. If I could just do another title, that would be so good. Nope. No titles. But if all you're doing is a person, a camera on a person, a PowerPoint, person with PowerPoint, and an event title, or that could just be a pre-show, post-show slide, you know, this is the event. You can have that pre-stream, go to the camera, go to the 2-shot, go to the slide, go to the 2-shot. You know, they're finishing up, go back to the camera, go to the slide, you're done. Plus, you can even change out the slide, because while you're watching a video or the PowerPoint or something like that, you can come over to what would be your graphic and just go get a different graphic. Over here in your mixer, you have the ability on your audio. Every audio channel has the ability to adjust the gain. You can add plugins for noise reduction and things like that. You've got an EQ, you've got a compressor, you've got a noise gate. You can decide what channel it goes to. In this version, it doesn't matter so much because you've only got main program. You're not going to be doing, actually, I don't even know if you can do extra buses. Let's check, because I don't see that mentioned in the list. Let's go into the settings and go to audio. Oh, wow. Let's enable. Let's enable. Let's enable. Now, enabling additional audio buses in here is going to say we're going to need to reboot. Yes, reboot. And it goes really fast. And it comes right back. So there we go. But now all of a sudden you can see I've got my audio input, but I've got multiple audio buses. I have my master bus, but if I wanted to have something, you know, if I had a remote guest coming in and I wanted to be able to talk to that remote guest, I could bring my audio in, send it just to a bus that they listen to, but is not part of program. And I have a video on this on the StreamTech channel about, you know, handling remote guests. And you can come into this and say, oh, I want this to go to bus A and bus B. And actually, if you double click on it, there's C and D. Don't know, they could have just put that on the right-hand side, but I don't design it. And then it has, you can solo any channel, which will go to your headphones. Your headphone volume is different than your program volume, so you can listen to a different program than what's going out master. So it is really like a real audio mixer in that you can, I'm hearing a buzz, what channel is that coming in on? Let me solo each one. And audio follows video, and then this just means the channel is on or off. And then when you send it to A and B, your A and B bus is here, but then you can still determine what goes to master. So you can send multiple buses to master or not. And I think in later versions, I don't think I get to name the buses in this version. Oh, I do. For show, close. If you have an external switch, like an ATEM Mini with 4 inputs, you can use that to switch cameras. And then you could use this for overlays, pre-show music, playlist, graphics. And you can also do social as well, because I did not see any limitation on social. View shortcuts. You can integrate all the different social destinations where you could be streaming, because like we said at the beginning, this will stream to 3 destinations. So you can then be pulling from those 3 destinations comments and bring them into the show as part of the show. But again, that social overlay is probably going to be one of your inputs. So pushing your camera switch to an external device allows you to do more in vMix HD. Put them, yes, you can put that. You can put plugins on the buses themselves, so you can have multiple inputs. Again, it's only limited to 4 inputs, but you can put it on a bus as well, because there's no reverb or anything. Just you can do plugins. It'll do EQ, compressor, and noise gate are built in. Other than that, like noise reduction is not available inside vMix. On your inputs, you have general controls. You can do a basic sharpen, automatically play with the transition, automatically mix the audio. You can set those settings in here. You can change your settings for the input, your audio settings. I was going to do some color correction because it says it allows you color correction. You've got some basic color correction, and I think the white balance is actually really good here, auto white balance. But what you're really going to do, we showed you the color key built in. There's also a Luma key, but the color correction is actually quite nice in that you've got your darks, mids, and whites color correction for each, as well as I don't do color correction, so my terminology is going to be very wrong. You can lift them or bring them down. So if I think the whites are a little too bright, I can bring that down. If I think the mids are a little dark, I can bring the mids up. I can shove the color around. Oh my goodness, that's totally wrong. Hit the reset button. Just overall increase in saturation, overall increase in hue, and hit the total reset button. And then I can turn that on and off right here. So color bars, color wheels. I like the color wheels. Some people like to work with individual bars. That plus your positioning for all 10 layers. You can't actually add 10 layers in the basic version. So, you're not going to be, messing around with this. But when you get to other things, I have done, like you want to have this picture and that picture and this picture and that picture and a logo and a thing. You can build all that as one big scene and then do a merge from that to something else. And that lets you really get complex in your scene building. Triggers, there's no limit on triggers as far as I can tell. You can have this set so that on the completion of a video, your pre-show video, it'll automatically cut to camera 1 and automatically bring up the microphone, and automatically, after a delay of so many seconds, bring up the graphic for the show. And then after so many more seconds, fade out the graphic. You can build all of those as triggers in here. Tally lights. Actually, the tally light on the NDI camera is red, so that is working properly. Your PTZ controls. PTZ is not available in this edition of vMix. And advanced. There's, like I said, you can delay the video so many frames, and there's other things you can do down here, but I'm not going to get too deep into the woods. Again, this is meant to be a very basic HD version for people who need to affect 1 or 2 inputs with a title or something. So at that level, you're not going to be getting into deep scripting for this app. Down here at the bottom, over here on the left, we went through the inputs. When you record is the next tab. You can decide whether you want to record it as an AVI, Windows Movie, MP4, FFmpeg, vMix AVI. This one is kind of special in that the vMix AVI uses less horsepower. So if I was doing this on my Surface, that's probably what I would use. Also, it's a complete file as it writes. What that means is if your computer were to crash, or you're on a desktop machine and the power goes down and you don't have a UPS, that file is complete as it's writing it. Whereas if you're going to write an MP4 file or an AVI file like that, those are not finished files. Normally, when you say stop recording, it has to put a wrapper on it, say this is an MP4 file with this type of setting. It is this many frames a second. It is this long. The audio has this code. It has this table of contents it has to put at the beginning. And if it doesn't have that, then Windows says, I don't know what that is, if it even sees it at all. So that's where this vMix AVI comes into play, that in the forums they say, this is what you want to use if you're in a situation where you don't have a battery backup, which is actually one of the reasons I actually like using a laptop, in that if the power goes down, my laptop is still running. My external input output may go, my, everything else, my power, boom, my power is gone. Oh no, well, let me save my file, stop the record, stop the stream, do all that. Let me plug it back in. I have that time because it has a built-in UPS. One of the nice things I like about having a laptop. But with that vMix AVI, that's sort of like an extra feature, an extra safeguard, so that if something were to happen, it's complete as it's writing it. Here's where you can say what size do I want it recorded at, what's the frame rate I want it recorded at, what's the bit rate I want it recorded at, and then what audio do I want, audio from the buses. So I can do ISOs here. Again, though, this one only does, it does recording, but it doesn't have 2 recorders, and it does not have the multi-quarter. So you're pretty much going to use the master at this point. Audio bit rate and stuff like that. Come down here, say okay. Yes, 4K is not, so I didn't change it. Let's go up and change it. 1920 by 1080. Okay. And when you do that, now you get a recording channel, so you can see what the audio level is in the recording. Your external outputs, I'm just clicking on the gear icon. You can adjust your SRT. I have one output. I have NDI on, which is why when I looked at NDI sources, it actually saw my own laptop. You can turn that off. My display settings, this is where I can change my colors you see at the top of the screen. This is the settings, the general settings. If you want to do PAL or NTSC or 2397, your output size, I think this also does, I think it said it didn't do vertical, but the other versions do. Oh, no, wait. Normal, widescreen, or anamorphic. Interesting. Outputs, not a whole lot going on here, but this is where if you had a hardware output, you do have one output, you could then choose your hardware output device here and change your settings for that. And it would leverage either the hardware device's ability to encode, like if you want to do your show at 60, but you wanted to output 30, or if you want to do your 30, want to output 60 for a LED screen or something like that, that difference in setting would mean that the hardware would need to re-encode the video. You have various options. These are different startup options. Performance, I don't even have high performance mode selected. I should turn that on. Decoders, recording, external output. This is where I'm saying if you use the external renderer if it was available. Your audio say, so there's a lot of these are just basic general preferences that you set depending on how you want to work. Some people like to just tap the inputs down the bottom and cut them right into the show. You can do that. Other people want to do preview program. You can do that. Audio outputs. This is where I added the extra buses. Web controller, shortcuts. This is where it actually pulled shortcuts from when I had them set up for another show. But if you have an Elgato Stream Deck or anything else, I just did a show where the keyboard doesn't do anything. Your computer keyboard doesn't do anything in vMix while you're actually in the show part. Let me close this. You could type on the keyboard. It doesn't do anything. So what I did was I assigned my function keys 1, 2, 3, and 4 to be the 4 camera inputs and the space bar to be cut. So I was able to go 1 cut, 2 cut, 1 cut, 3 cut, and be able to do the show that way without having to like move my cursor around on the screen. So I used the keyboard of the computer as a control surface, or if you had a numeric keypad, you could use the numeric keypad, use the numbers at the top and hit the enter key as your control surface. The stream settings right here, you have your 3 at the top. So you can pick 1, 2, and 3. So I'm activating 1. I can send that to YouTube, and then I come over here to 2. I'm going to send 2 to Twitch, and then number 3 I'm going to send to Twitter. Still calls it Twitter because it's an old version. And then you can go into the settings, set your output, and it will do 3 different encodes on this machine and send 3 different streams. There's no multicasting built into this. like some all-in-one machines have. So if you are sending 3 streams at 3 megabits a second, then that's 3, 6, 9, basically 10 megabits. And I always like to recommend at least double. So you would need to make sure that you had at least 20 megabits up from this machine to get those individual streams reliably out the door. Here's your multi-quarter. vMix AVI. Supposedly this doesn't have a multi-quarter, but let's try it. Change recording folder. Let's put it right on the desktop. Select folder. Start. Nope. I thought the error that it's not available would come up when you actually call, when you click on the gear button, but the multi-quarter is not available in this edition of vMix. So, but this is a demonstration that if you had 8 different inputs, you'd say, record this, 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 this. This is where I want them all to go. So it's like having an ATEM Mini Extreme ISO and just being able to ISO all your inputs and save them into a folder, as well as having your master program, which, let me close this. Your record settings for your master record are separate than the multi-quarter. So they're in 2 different places. And then of course there's a playlist so that you can create a playlist of videos or things like that. If you set the output here to be an ISO of input 1, then that is what's going to be recorded as your master as well. Your full screen output up here is different. Like if I had a second monitor connected, that's what this is up here. And I can say, oh, you know what? I want to look at the multi-view on the full screen where I just see all my inputs. Not terribly useful in the HD version, but it's still there if you wanted to do that. You could technically use that as a ISO of just the slides, so you can bring the slides into your laptop, send the full screen, the second output of just the slides to the screen in the room, so it's passing through you before it goes to the room, so you have it to switch for the stream, and it's also available in the room. And then technically you can use this and some triggers to switch the output of what that is. So you could switch your full screen output, number 2, to be program or slides or close-up camera or slides or camera or slides. And then that's independent of you switching the output of the live show, which would also have a picture-in-picture and a pre-show graphic and things like that. So you could kind of get 2 switchers out of it, maybe. vMix is a great app. And the fact that there's an HD version introduces it to people who are not going to pony up the $1,200 for the Pro version. And it seems like a lot, but again, you pay it once, you're done. It's not a subscription. And if you have it for 4 years, 3 times 4 is 12. So now it's $300 a year. Well, that's less than the cost of Adobe Premiere. So, and this is a live streaming tool that will handle pretty much anything you throw at it. vMix would be great for somebody like me doing this, because I would use vMix to do, you know, here's my camera, here's my background, overlays. I'm actually doing the overlays in Restream, but you can do all of this in vMix Basic HD. And it's still a jump to get the 4K, but the Basic HD giving you 1,000 inputs, that's really where I think a lot of people are gonna, you know, want to sit. Once they take a look at Basic HD, if vMix is a tool that works for them, you know, like I said, different tools feel great for different people. And if vMix is a tool that people gravitate towards, and it says, yeah, I kind of dig how this works. I've watched some of the videos. The tutorial videos are great. The community is really supportive, and I can get my questions answered, and I'm really getting going here. This is the direction I want to keep going in. Then you could sit there and say, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and you know, I've got 3 or 4 things lined up. I'm going to ante up and, you know, get the full HD version for $350. That would give you the 1,000 inputs, which is going to be the biggest weight off your back. You're not constrained to just 4 inputs. And I think that's why that is there for the most basic, like I said at the beginning of the show, I use the HD version on my Surface to take an input of a vertical streaming appliance, and it rotates it, puts it off to the side, and then puts a border on it, puts a background behind, and then sends that to my regular switch, so that when I want to talk about InStream, look, I could just point to it over here. Here's InStream, and it's off to the side. vMix HD is a great tool for that. I think that pretty much wraps up my demonstration of vMix HD for today. I do appreciate you all being here as I walked through the various settings. I didn't get to everything in it. I wanted to give you an introduction to vMix HD, cover the most salient parts, bringing in inputs, handling some audio, recording your streaming, what inputs you could bring in, and show you some of where you're going to bang against those limitations in vMix HD being just 4 inputs, not the multi-quarter, not this thing and not that thing. Not a remote guest. No, no, and no. And I completely overstepped one thing. When you go to vMix, they give you, come up at the top here, there is a 60-day free license when you download it. That one on the far right there, $1,200. There's nothing that is not enabled on the version you get for 60 days. Nothing. It is fully the most powerful version that they make. It is limited only by the hardware you put it on. And then after those 60 days, you're going to need to pay. My name is Anthony Barocas. I am the Chief Gearhead here at Stream For Us, and I will look forward to seeing you all next week.